January 21st, 1793, at the Place de la Révolution in Paris, King Louis XVI. He was guillotined and executed by the people. This is an unprecedented change. 300 years ago in Western France, with the powerful royal power of Louis XIV, pushing France to the top of Europe. Subsequent Napoleonic era rely on military merit to sweep Europe, make France the king of the world army. Colonial rule of the British Empire that never sets. Read French history in one sitting. In 1661, the Temple of Louis became king at a young age, showed great talent. The first step after the New Deal was to abolish the Prime Minister. The unity of the 6 ministers in the cabinet is personally determined by him, has the power to make decisions on all state affairs. Mighty Huang Quan laid the foundation for his struggle for European hegemony. Louis XIV's 54 years in power waged for major wars. The war lasted for 31 years. The protracted war against Japan gradually emptied the French treasury. France at that time was divided into 3 levels. Aristocrats and classrooms endowed superior conditions. No big taxes and privileges. And as a civilian, you only have the right to work. The war keeps raising taxes, causing class contradictions to intensify. The disadvantages of the dictatorship of the monarchy are becoming increasingly apparent in the era of Louis XV, the 7 Years' War between Britain and France, and participating in the American Revolutionary War, causing the French national debt to reach 2 billion francs. Until Louis XVI succeeded to the throne in 1789, France is facing a major fiscal crisis. Will solve financial problems. Louis XVI convoked the nobility at the Palais de Versailles. Classroom civilians' third-level meeting. The third-tier civilians at the meeting disagreed with the tax increase and announced the establishment of a National Assembly. The National Assembly threatens the royal power. Louis XVI dissolves parliament. At the same time, a large number of troops were called to Paris. The armed uprising that provoked the people of Paris. Parisian citizens armed with weapons captured the bus that symbolized authoritarian rule. Preliminary victory against the release of 7 prisoners. Just 20 days after the capture of the bus defense, the National Assembly announced the abolition of all feudal privileges. This means that, over 120 years ago, the monarchy established by King Louis XIV declared dead. Freedom from Paris since then. The voice of equality and fraternity resounded throughout Europe. September 22, 1792. The French First Republic is established. King Louis XVI was guillotined. The Bourbon dynasty was overthrown. At the same time, the European military powers that feared the spread of revolution formed an anti-French coalition, war on France. Started in 1796, Napoleon's expedition to Italy won the victory against the first anti-French coalition. Then Napoleon launched a property coup, became the supreme ruler of France. Until 1800, the French army was under the command of Napoleon. Victory for the wings of Marengo disintegrated the second anti-French coalition. After the war, the Amiens Contract was signed, marking the end of the decades-long Revolutionary War. November 6, 1804. The referendum approved the 12-year Constitution of the Republic. The French Republic became the French Empire. Napoleon crowned emperor. Become a popular candidate for the First French Empire. The resulting emperor. Napoleon promulgated the French Civil Code. This code broke away from feudal legislative principles. Become the legislative norm of the bourgeoisie in Europe, America, and other countries. It promoted the development of capitalism. August 1805. Austria, Britain, and Russia united to form the Third Anti-French Coalition against the expansionist power of France. Napoleon himself led the French army eastward and captured Munich on October 12th. Then at the Battle of Volm, First French Empire waged a fierce battle with the Austrian Empire. The French were victorious, led to the surrender of the anti-French coalition. 1806 in England. Russia and Prussia united to form the Fourth Anti-French Coalition. At the Battle of Ypres, Napoleon leads his army to victory. And at the Battle of Ulstadt, defeated the main force commanded by the King of Prussia himself. Almost wiped out Prussia. Napoleon seized most of Germany's territory and captured Berlin. In 1807, he fought at the Battle of Eylau in Poland, defeat the Russian army at the Battle of Friedland, and a ceremonial meeting with Tsar Alexander of Russia. Finally, a peace treaty was signed. After 4 bloody wars with the anti-French coalition, the European continent was almost enveloped by French influence. Napoleon became a true conqueror. Not only does he also serve as the King of Italy, his brothers became Spanish. Naples, Portugal. King of Poland, the Netherlands, and Westphalia. Austria and Prussia became his defeated countries. The vast Tsarist Russia succumbed to his comrades. Napoleon brought France to Louis. 14 years later, another splendor. With the expansion of Napoleon's empire, the ideas of the French Revolution, as the empire expanded and spread throughout Europe, the ideals of democracy, equality, and freedom inspire people's desire for freedom. To a certain extent, transform the landscape of European society. Napoleon had always aspired to rule all of Europe. Russia is the final obstacle. 1812. He led a large 570,000 army on an expedition to Russia. At the Battle of Brokino, the Russian army has abandoned the capital of Moscow, adopted the tactic of killing Aquino, put Napoleon in trouble. Napoleon's army enters Moscow, encountered severe material shortages and dispersed troops. The French army was unable to adapt to the cold weather in Moscow. The Russian army uses wait-and-see tactics. Take the opportunity to sneak attack the French army. Tens of thousands of French troops died in battle, or froze to death. Finally, less than 30,000 French troops successfully returned to France. The war became a turning point for Napoleon. After Napoleon's disastrous defeat on the Russian battlefield, Tsar of Russia, the Alexandria ceremony decided to completely defeat France, dominate Europe, and form the Sixth Anti-French Coalition. Napoleon tried to prevent the formation of the alliance, but ultimately failed. In many fierce battles, Napoleon has had some victories, but he is facing increasing pressure. Finally, he suffered a major defeat at the Battle of La Bicie. The French were defeated by the Allied forces. In 1814, Paris was occupied. The Allied forces demanded Napoleon's unconditional surrender and demanded that Napoleon abdicate. From then on, the First French Empire fell. After being exiled to the island of Elba, did not give up the dream of ruling. He managed to escape Elba and return to France, and quickly reorganized the old department, recaptured Paris. Emperor again. However, his abdominal wall did not last long. They suffered a fatal defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, defeated by the Allies and forced to abdicate. Finally, Napoleon was exiled to the island of Elba. He ended his short-lived glory. After the fall of Napoleon's empire, Louis XVIII part. He abolished liberal-leaning policies. As a result, the Bourbon dynasty gradually lost popularity. Eventually, these actions triggered the 1830, the outbreak of the French July Revolution. After the July Revolution, Louis Philippe III became King of France, established the Bourbon-Orleans dynasty. However, he still can't solve it. The problem of France's continued economic recession. Finally, he was forced to abdicate in 1848. Since then, the Bopeng dynasty has officially come to an end. In the same year, the February Revolution broke out in France. Overthrow the July Revolution dynasty, a regime ruled by a financial aristocracy. Establishment of the Second French Republic. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte was elected president. Due to the Constitution, the president cannot be directly re-elected. Bonaparte demands that the Constitution be amended. Opposed by a majority in the Legislative Assembly. Bunaba staged a coup. Resolution Council. Establish a dictatorship. Announced the establishment of the Second Empire. Barnabas was named. The emperor called Napoleon III. Napoleon III period. Waged many foreign wars. Changing France's isolation. And compete for the European continent. In the Crimean War. France United Kingdom. Turkey and Sardinia against Russia. Successfully established a dominant position on the European continent. However, during the subsequent reign, the problem of exploitation and oppression in France, and the rise of the labor movement, and a series of diplomatic missteps. The French were defeated in the French-Turkish War of 1870. Napoleon III was forced to surrender. Marked the end of the Second Empire. September 4th, 1870, the French Third Republic is established. But in the face of the threat of the paving city army, bourgeois out-of-time government chose to kneel down to Germany and signed a treaty to pay reparations and cede territory. The people of Paris are unwilling to be deprived of their rights. Launched an uprising in the early morning of March 18, 1871. The Paris Commune was established. Attempt to establish a proletarian regime. The Commune was eventually suppressed by the bourgeois government. Lead to failure. After 1870, the French economy developed. Formed monopoly, especially the concentration of bank capital. After the Franco-Prussian War, the main objectives of French foreign policy. Revenge against Germany. To escape isolation, France and Russia concluded a military alliance in 1892 and concluded a treaty with Britain in 1904. Formed the Triple Entente. During the First World War, although France was a victorious country, but suffered huge losses, led to post-war economic hardship and political instability. The cabinet changed 45 times between 1914 and 1940. In 1939, France declared war on Germany. France is losing ground. Marshal Pétain signs a surrender pact with Germany. The fall of the French Third Republic. July of the same year, a puppet government was established in Vichy in central France. June 1944, General de Gaulle established an anti-fascist provisional government. The resistance movement grew rapidly. De Gaulle solidarity, domestic and colonial anti-fascist forces. Continue the war. In the Allies and the French Communist Party leadership. With the cooperation of anti-exercise, France recaptured Paris on August 25, 1944. Then the whole country was liberated. October 1946, the Constitution of the Fourth Republic was adopted. The political system of the Third Republic is basically preserved. During the Fourth Republic, France has undergone several revival programs. Industrial production is growing rapidly. People's lives are getting richer. External relations. France accepted the Marshall Plan. Become a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And with the Federal Republic of Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg established the common market of 6 Western European countries. War in Algeria. And a series of political crises. The Fourth Republic is in turmoil. January 1959, President de Gaulle is inaugurated. He came to power amid a national crisis. This marked the establishment of the Fifth Republic of France. During Charles de Gaulle's tenure as Prime Minister of France, the French economy has fully recovered. The country is gradually emerging from the predicament, restored its former glory and strength. 1963, France and the Federal Republic of Germany signed a Franco-German Friendship Treaty. Reconciliation with old enemy Germany. In 1964, France established diplomatic relations with New China, become the first Western power to recognize New China. After more than 2 centuries of efforts by France, gradually founded, by practicing the principles of Enlightenment thought, the path to great power status